At 5:12 local time, the sea lies calm, almost too calm. A U.S. Navy carrier strike group moves steadily across the open ocean. At the center of the formation, the aircraft carrier commands the scene, immense, disciplined, and silent. Its broad flight deck cuts across the water like a floating runway, while destroyers hold perfect spacing along the outer edge. Slightly behind, a guided missile cruiser watches the rear approach. High above the horizon, an airborne early warning aircraft circles in a measured orbit, its radar scanning hundreds of miles of empty sea. Everything looks routine. Then the sonar room picks up something unusual, a faint metallic rhythm. Soft, slow, mechanical. At first, it disappears into the ocean's constant background noise, distant currents, shifting layers of water, the low vibration of the carrier's own propellers echoing through the depths. But the sonar technician freezes for a moment. He adjusts his headset. The sound comes again, steady and deliberate, the unmistakable pulse of rotating blades moving underwater. He tightens the frequency filter and isolates the signal. Now it is clearer. Propeller cavitation, a submarine. The technician leans closer, studying the waveform scrolling across the screen. Then his expression changes. Another signal appears, slightly offset from the first. A second propeller rhythm. Different blade spacing, different acoustic fingerprint. Two submarines. The room falls silent. He sweeps the spectrum again. A third signature rises from the darkness below. Three separate contacts. Three submarines moving slowly beneath the strike group. The sonar supervisor steps in. Repeat classification. The technician cross-checks the acoustic library. Blade count, rotation rate, hull resonance. The system compares the data against known submarine profiles. A few tense seconds pass. Then the match appears. Three Iranian diesel-electric submarines, and they are already inside the outer defensive screen. Above them, the carrier continues forward at a steady pace, with no visible sign that three quiet hunters have slipped beneath the strike group's protective perimeter. Inside the carrier's combat information center, the sonar report arrives. Three red symbols appear beneath the blue formation on the tactical display. Close range, uncomfortably close. The strike group commander studies the screen. Submarines almost never get this near a carrier group without being detected. Three operating together is even more unusual. But what matters most is not just their presence. It is the way they are moving. They are spreading out. One contact edges toward the carrier's port side. Another drifts toward starboard. The third remains behind the formation. This is not random motion. This is positioning. Deep below the surface, the lead Iranian submarine glides through the dark water in near silence. Inside its cramped control room, the captain watches the attack console as the targeting solution sharpens. Above him, the aircraft carrier is enormous, more than 1,000 feet of steel and aircraft moving through the sea. But even a ship that large has weak points. A torpedo does not have to sink a carrier to cripple it. The captain studies the range. Closer, closer, still closer. Back in the carrier's sonar room, the technician notices the change at once. The submarine contacts are no longer drifting. Their movement is now precise, deliberate. The distance is closing, and the space between them is widening. The sonar supervisor looks at the tactical map and understands immediately. They are forming a triangle, a classic submarine ambush pattern designed to trap a large target from multiple angles. He grabs the communication line. Bridge, sonar, multiple submarine contacts confirmed. Three hostile submarines maneuvering inside the perimeter. On the bridge, the officer of the deck straightens. How close? Within firing range. For a moment, the words seem to freeze the air. Then the order comes. General quarters. The alarm erupts across the carrier. A sharp electronic tone echoes through steel passageways and aircraft hangars. Crew members react instantly. Hatches slam shut. Weapon systems come alive. Across the strike group, escort ships surge into defensive positions. On the destroyers, helicopter rotors begin to spin. Moments later, anti-submarine helicopters lift off one by one, racing toward the suspected contact points. But below the surface, the Iranian submarines have already reached their firing positions. Inside the lead submarine, the torpedo officer watches the targeting computer complete its final calculations. Range optimal, bearing locked. He turns to the captain. Target acquired. The captain gives a slow nod. Prepare tubes. Metal doors slide open in the forward torpedo compartment. Compressed air systems pressurize. Cold seawater floods the launch chambers. Above them, the aircraft carrier holds course across the calm ocean, unaware that three torpedo tubes are now trained directly on its hull. Then, in the sonar room, a new sound slams into the technician's headset. A sudden burst of propulsion. His eyes go wide. Torpedo launch! Then another, and another. Three launch signatures explode across the display at almost the same instant. Three submarines, three torpedoes, all accelerating through the water toward the U.S. aircraft carrier. Impact time, less than 2 minutes. Torpedo inbound, the warning slices through the Combat Information Center. Every screen flashes red. 3 bright threat lines tear across the tactical display. Each line marks a torpedo cutting through the darkness beneath the surface, all of them locked on a single objective, the center of the formation, the carrier itself. The officer of the deck reacts without hesitation. Hard rudder, full power. Deep below the carrier, the propulsion system surges. Massive turbines push the shafts harder, driving the propellers into overdrive. The ocean behind the ship erupts into a violent trail of white foam as the carrier begins to turn. It's not a fast maneuver, nothing this large ever moves quickly, but even a slight shift in direction can mean everything. Across the strike group, the atmosphere changes instantly. Escort ships transition from routine patrol to full combat mode. On the destroyer guarding the port side, the anti-submarine warfare officer studies the incoming tracks. 3 weapons, 3 different angles, all converging with precision. He speaks evenly. Deploy acoustic countermeasures. Within seconds, decoy devices launch from tubes along the hull. They hit the water and sink rapidly, disappearing beneath the surface. Then they activate. The ocean fills with sound. Artificial signatures roar to life. Simulated engines, false propeller noise, layered acoustic patterns designed to mimic a massive vessel. To a torpedo's sensors, these decoys appear as new targets. But the incoming weapons don't break off. Inside the Iranian submarines, operators monitor the situation closely. The torpedoes detect the decoys immediately. Yet beyond the interference, one signal remains dominant. The carrier. A ship this size creates an enormous acoustic presence. Even in a sea filled with distractions, it stands out like thunder beneath the water. The torpedoes stay on course. Above the surface, the strike group launches the next layer of defense. Helicopters lift off from the destroyers, accelerating low over the waves. Their rotors hammer the air as they rush toward the contact zones. Each one carries a full anti-submarine load. Sonar buoys, torpedoes, depth charges. As they arrive, the crews begin deploying sensors in rapid sequence. One after another, sonar buoys hit the water, forming a wide listening network across the ocean. Back in the carrier's sonar room, fresh data floods in. 3 submarine contacts, still active, still close. The helicopters tighten their search pattern. One pilot leans in toward his display. Contact confirmed. Directly below, increasing depth, low speed, attempting to slip away. A pause. Prepare depth charges. Back on the carrier, the countdown continues. 1 minute, 50 seconds. The torpedoes are now deep inside the defensive perimeter. Decoys not diverting, an officer mutters, jaw clenched. On the destroyer, the captain makes a call. Deploy anti-torpedo interceptor. A compact launcher fires. A small defensive torpedo dives into the sea, built not to strike ships, but to hunt other torpedoes. It accelerates rapidly underwater, locking onto the nearest threat. Seconds pass. 2 signals converge. Then, an underwater blast. The first incoming torpedo vanishes instantly, but 2 remain above the submarines the helicopters strike. Depth charges drop into the water. Moments later, the sea erupts. Shockwaves ripple through the depths. Inside one of the submarines, the hull shudders violently as the pressure wave hits. Lights flicker. Crew members brace themselves against the metal walls. The captain grips the console. Maintain course. Above, the helicopters circle for another pass. Back in the carrier's combat center, something changes. The second torpedo begins to drift. The decoys are finally having an effect. Its guidance system struggles, picking up multiple targets. For a brief moment, it hesitates. Then it turns. The torpedo veers away from the carrier and locks onto a decoy. Seconds later, another explosion tears through the water. The second threat is gone. But the third one is different. It has ignored everything. No reaction to decoys, no confusion from interference. It is still coming, and fast. On the tactical display, a single red line points straight at the carrier. 500 meters, 400. Final torpedo still tracking, an officer calls out. Around the formation, ships maneuver aggressively. Helicopters thunder overhead. The ocean churns with countermeasures and shockwaves. But beneath it all, the last torpedo continues its run. 300 meters. Time is running out. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tension becomes almost overwhelming. Every eye is fixed on the screen. Everyone knows what's at stake. Carriers are built to endure extreme damage. Reinforced hulls, compartmentalized interiors, systems designed to survive the worst conditions. But modern torpedoes don't just strike, they detonate beneath the target. The explosion forms a massive gas bubble that lifts the ship and then drops it with devastating force. Even a near miss can disable propulsion, damage steering, or cripple the vessel. 250 meters. On the bridge, the captain remains calm. Maintain turn. The carrier continues its slow pivot, carving through the water. Its wake boils behind it as every meter of movement shifts the angle of impact. Even a slight change could make the difference. Back in the combat center, a new command is issued. Activate acoustic jammer. Beneath the hull, a powerful countermeasure system activates. It floods the surrounding water with intense acoustic interference. To the torpedo, the environment turns chaotic. False echoes, distorted signals, overlapping frequencies. But it keeps coming. 200 meters. In the sonar room, the technician listens through the noise. The high-pitched whine of the torpedo cuts through everything. Still tracking, he says quietly. The countdown continues. 180, 170. The jammer intensifies. For a brief moment, the torpedo's signal flickers. Just a split second. Its guidance system struggles to process the overload of conflicting data. For the first time, it hesitates. 150 meters. Inside the torpedo, its onboard system recalculates. The carrier's signature is still the strongest, but now it's buried beneath layers of interference. The algorithm adjusts, and the next move will decide everything. It surges forward again, 130 meters. The carrier's engines thunder as the massive ship continues its turn. Overhead, helicopters circle like hunters scanning the surface. Destroyers push closer, moving to shield the carrier, but none of them can reach the threat in time, 100 meters. Inside the nearest destroyer, the anti-torpedo operator tracks the incoming weapon. This is it, the final opportunity. Launch Interceptor. A second defensive torpedo fires from the hull and dives into the sea. It accelerates instantly, slicing through the water at high speed. Now 2 weapons are on a collision course beneath the surface. One heading for the carrier, one hunting it down. The distance between them collapses rapidly. 80 meters to the carrier, 70, 60. Inside the combat center, 2 fast-moving signals close in on each other. No one speaks. 50 meters, 40, 30. Then, a violent underwater blast rips through the ocean. The shockwave surges outward with incredible force. Above the surface, the sea explodes into a towering column of foam and spray. Inside the carrier, the hull trembles from the distant impact. For a few seconds, every sonar display is swallowed by static. Just white noise. Silence. Then the interference fades. The torpedo track is gone. The interceptor did its job. The carrier is safe, for now. But the situation is far from over. On the sonar screen, 3 contacts still move below. 3 submarines, and now their positions are no longer hidden. Across the tactical display, the commander studies the data. The defensive phase is finished. Now it becomes a hunt. The moment the final torpedo disappears, the entire strike group shifts mindset. No more reacting. Now they take control. Inside the Combat Information Center, the commander watches the sonar feed closely. The submarine positions are clear. The earlier attack exposed them. Every launch leaves behind a trace. Pressure waves, acoustic disturbances, patterns trained operators know how to follow. The order is direct. Engage hostile submarines. Across the fleet, anti-submarine systems move into pursuit. Above the water, helicopters descend lower. Their dipping sonar systems begin scanning the depths directly below. From one aircraft, a long cable lowers into the ocean, carrying a powerful sonar unit. The pilot holds steady. Seconds pass. Then the operator hears it. A sharp metallic echo. Submarine hull. Contact confirmed. Close range. The pilot responds immediately. Prepare weapon. A lightweight anti-submarine torpedo drops into the water and activates within seconds. Its onboard sonar begins searching. Below, inside the submarine, the crew hears it. A sharp pulse, then the unmistakable sound of an incoming weapon. The captain reacts instantly. Evasive maneuver. The submarine tilts, attempting to dive deeper. But there are limits. It's quiet, but not fast. The torpedo locks on. Distance closes rapidly. Moments later, a powerful underwater explosion tears through the sea. Above the surface, water erupts into a violent plume. On the strike group's displays, 1 contact disappears. First submarine, gone. 2 remain. Another submarine attempts to break away, turning sharply south and increasing speed. Inside, the captain hopes the chaos creates a small window to escape, but the strike group is already closing in. A guided missile destroyer moves to intercept, its sonar locking onto the target almost instantly. Launch torpedo. The weapon enters the water and begins its pursuit. Inside the submarine, the crew hears it within seconds. Another incoming threat. Deploy countermeasures. Decoys flood the water. False signals meant to distract the torpedo. But this one is different. It analyzes the environment, filters out the noise, and locks onto the real target. There's no escape. Seconds later, another explosion shakes the ocean. On the tactical display, the second contact vanishes. 2 submarines eliminated. 1 left. The final submarine dives hard toward the seabed. Inside, the captain makes a desperate call. All engines stop. The vessel goes silent. Completely still, waiting. On the sonar screens, the last submarine nearly fades away. It blends into the seabed, almost invisible. The crew hopes the ocean floor will hide them. For a few minutes, everything goes quiet again. Above, helicopters continue circling, scanning the surface. Sonar operators listen carefully, searching for even the faintest trace. Then, one crew notices something. A tiny disturbance, barely there. A faint metallic shift. The pilot leans forward. Possible contact, bearing 090. Another sonar buoy drops into the water. Seconds later, the signal sharpens. The submarine is still there, trying to stay hidden, but no longer invisible. The helicopter crew moves quickly, final weapon ready. A torpedo drops into the sea and activates almost instantly. It begins sweeping the seabed with active sonar. The hidden submarine lights up clearly in its sensors. There's nowhere left to go. Moments later, the ocean erupts one last time. A powerful underwater blast rolls across the seafloor. On every sonar display, the third contact disappears. 3 submarines engaged, all 3 gone. For a few seconds after the final explosion, the ocean becomes eerily still. The towering column of water collapses back into the sea. Foam spreads across the surface, slowly dissolving into the deep blue. Inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, no one looks away from their screens. The data updates, no propulsion noise, no hull resonance, no movement below. The third submarine is gone. Across the tactical display, the red markers that once signaled danger have vanished. Only friendly positions remain. The commander studies the screen, then speaks calmly. Maintain sonar sweep. No one relaxes just yet. Underwater battles don't always end the moment things go quiet. Submarines are built to disappear, and silence can be misleading. Above the ocean, helicopters keep circling. More sonar buoys drop into the water, expanding the detection grid. The sea becomes a network of listening points. Inside the sonar room, technicians monitor incoming data streams. Each buoy sends back acoustic information. Operators listen closely. Minutes pass. Nothing. No propellers, no movement, only the distant echo of the strike group's own engines traveling through the water. On the bridge, the captain looks out over the calm horizon. Just minutes earlier, torpedoes had been racing through this same water, fast enough to threaten even a ship this large. Now, everything appears peaceful again, but no one forgets how close it was. Below deck, damage control teams run rapid checks. Propulsion systems, stable. Rudder response, normal. Hull integrity, unchanged. The carrier took no damage. Around it, destroyers gradually return to position. The cruiser settles back into formation behind the carrier. Helicopters begin returning one by one, landing carefully as crews guide them into place. Inside the combat center, the formation on the display stabilizes. But the search continues. 15 minutes pass. Then 20, still nothing. Finally, the sonar supervisor removes his headset and looks toward the commander. No additional contacts detected. The commander nods once. For now, the threat is gone. Across the carrier, the tension begins to ease, but only slightly. The lesson is clear. The entire encounter lasted less than 10 minutes. From the first torpedo launch to the final submarine being neutralized, everything happened at extreme speed. Every system was tested. Sonar teams detected the threat. Destroyers deployed countermeasures. Helicopters tracked and engaged targets below the surface. Interceptors stopped incoming torpedoes. Layer by layer, the strike group's defenses performed exactly as intended. Fast, coordinated, and precise. Back in the sonar room, the technician scrolls through the recorded data. 3 launch signatures, 3 torpedo tracks, 3 submarine contacts, all gone. Outside, the carrier continues moving steadily across the open ocean. Its massive hull cuts through the water, leaving a long white wake behind. From a distance, the formation looks calm again. Ordered. Unchanged. But far below the surface, the remains of 3 submarines now rest on the ocean floor. Their ambush lasted only minutes. The strike group remained intact. And the carrier, the main target, never even had to slow down.